Welcome to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. I'm Bernie Flowers, one of Uncle Sam's wayward children. I intend to talk about important topics in hopes of helping to improve our country and our way of life. Please like, share, and subscribe. So now, let's get started. Welcome to episode 65. Since I have my own podcast every so often, I like to say what's really on my mind. And episode 65 will be such an episode. Did you see the debate? I gotta weigh in on this. First, many people that I know have chosen to ignore the debate. It's like they're in denial. One black friend of mine chose not to watch the debate, but he actually called me a racist for questioning Joe Biden's performance. Believe it or not, some people are totally indoctrinated and unwilling to admit the obvious. We've been gaslighted. For example, slightly before the debate, Morning Joe Scarborough from MSNBC said, and I quote, "This is the best version of Joe Biden that I have ever seen." Several famous gaslighters bragged for years about how fit and ready Joe Biden was. Well, the day after the debate, Joe Scarborough and his buddies collectively said, and I quote, "Joe Biden needs to drop out of the race." Is this lying or is it gaslighting? To me, it's the same. For years, we have seen Joe Biden falling off bicycles, falling off stages, aircraft stairs, staring in the distance, and his wife guiding him along all the way. Clearly, he is showing signs of impairment. Reading cue cards saying, quote, end of quote. Was Joe Biden ever in charge during his presidency? Was he really on cold medicine during the debate, like his handler said? Your national media has blatantly lied to us. The mainstream media tells us, don't believe your lying eyes. If this is true, if this is the case, we no longer have a fourth estate. And that fourth estate is needed to have a democratic government. When I was in the administration, about 2 years ago, I heard rumors that Joe was not making decisions. Rumors from a very credible source. Several credible sources from the White House, to be exact. He spent most of his time, according to them, sleeping and eating ice cream. But I had to keep my mouth closed because I had to go along with the program. I was getting a government check, and it was my job to keep secrets. Well, now Joe Biden speaks to him like a 3-year-old. "Joe, you answered every question, and you did so well." She walked him down the steps after the debate because he couldn't make it on his own power. And this guy is our commander in chief. Look at our inflation. Young people can't afford to buy houses. They can't afford to invest in the American dream. All this happened on Joe Biden's watch. What about all the soldiers and government civilians like me who refused to take the jab that he mandated? They were forced to leave the government. Have we been compensated? I've not gotten any money. I've not gotten any compensation. What about the Afghan retrograde? What about the fact that Joe Biden just signed a 10-year security agreement with the Ukraine, meaning that we're responsible for their security for the next 10 years in an expensive proxy war with a near-peer nuclear power? I didn't vote for that. I'm sure you didn't either. I guess the media has proven that we can no longer trust them. How did all this happen? Well, I can tell you from experience that the appearances of presidents and senior government officials are highly scripted and highly choreographed. His staff knew that he was mentally impaired, but they let him go out there anyway. They knew he would fail badly, but they let him go out there anyway. So now, all our enemies know for sure that the leader of the free world is not ready for prime time. This would have been a hell of a time to start some crap in a place like Taiwan or in Gaza or the Ukraine or in Central America or some other hot spot, like the Darien Gap. So, do you think they sabotaged Joe Biden Do you think the American people are stupid? The donor class didn't get rich by being stupid. They believe in problem, reaction, solution. That is how they roll. Was Biden's failure orchestrated by his donors, by the Democrat Party? Do they want another presidential candidate? Is he really the commander in chief? Job one for the president is to protect the country. And I'm not feeling very safe right now. In case of a nuclear launch, theoretically, after our national censors agree that the U.S. is under attack, the president has about 15 minutes to decide if civilization will end via mutual assured destruction. I tell you, I've studied this all my life, or at least all my adult life. No one will survive a nuclear war. Our civilization will end as we know it. We are in a proxy war against a near peer rival armed with more nuclear weapons than we have. Doesn't our commander in chief realize that he's risking war, a war that would end civilization as we know it? Mutual assured destruction is nothing to play with. Nobody wins. The president has to be ready to make that decision in 15 minutes or less. Is Joe Biden ready to make that call? Can Joe Biden even decide when he should go to the bathroom? This guy, who during COVID presided over the largest wealth transfer in human history, does he know where we are? Does he care about the American people? And now we're $35 trillion in debt, and the debt grows every day. Did you know that from 2020 to 2024, the wealth of the 1% went up almost 90%? How is that good for America? How is that good for the middle class? This is the guy who has allowed 11 million illegal aliens into our country during his administration. He is not protecting our nation. Trust me, I saw it up close. So again, who benefits from this mess? Need I remind you that Joe Biden was the acolyte of racist Senator Strom Thurmond and Klansman Robert Byrd, Senator. All the media wants us to forget all that. According to them, Trump is the racist. Now, Trump's no angel, but it was Joe Biden who authored the 1994 crime bill that split up so many black families by putting so many black men into the criminal justice system. Remember the words super predators? Back when Joe Biden first ran for president in 1988, he stole the speech of another politician talking about he had graduated number one in his law school class. And back in those days when our media was less owned, they called him out for it and made him apologize. If you don't believe me, Google it. We have spent $200 billion protecting another country while our infrastructure crumbles. Our stock market rises while America's middle class suffers. This is Joe Biden's economy. And apparently, he only cares about himself, his family, and his donors. The rest of us don't matter to him, as evidenced by his lack of stewardship over the past 3.5 years. In summary, Biden and Trump were on live TV together. There were no teleprompters. There were no earpieces. There was no audience, just two old men showing who was best. Which one came out the winner? Well, you'll have to decide that yourself. But what I saw that Trump was ready for the occasion. I saw that Biden was stumbling, mumbling, and freezing. I also saw that the mainstream media desperately tried to cover up for Biden's ineptitude. Now, due to the Democratic Party's lack of foresight, they seem to be stuck with Kamala Harris as a presidential candidate. God help us. If she gets the Democratic nomination, we're in deep, deep doo-doo. We'll have to do an episode on her sometime. But with all that said, with the debate, have you given it any thought? And if so, what are you going to do about it? Well, that's about it for now. This has been the Loyal Opposition Podcast. produced in association with Fallback Productions and other podcasters. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to get your copy of my book, Black Values Matter, available as an ebook on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. And also, it's okay to disagree, but if we want our country to prosper, we must insist on unity, transparency, and civility from ourselves and our fellow citizens. Thanks for listening to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. See you next week.